To begin, whenever you're pulling your roving, you want to make sure that the hand that is holding the main portion is not squeezing too tightly, otherwise you won't be able to pull the fibers away from that part. The process itself of felting is really simple. Make the fibers do what you want and poke it a lot. Here I'm working on making a sphere, so I'm gathering the fibers as well I can, just loosely into a ball and start poking. I need to rotate it and continue to poke from all the sides as evenly as I can to try and get a pretty decent sphere. If I wanted it to be an oval or any other shape, what I need to do is just poke certain areas more than others, and that's going to help it to become the shape I want it to be. You can make your work loose or tighter. About the same amount of fluff is in all three of these. So when we're looking at these two balls I've felted, the one on the left is a little bit squishier and the one on the right is more firm. So this has to do with how you form your roving. The piece on the left just was very loosely wrapped in a ball and then felted. For the piece on the right, I rolled the roving up a little bit and started poking, then rolled it a little bit tighter, kept poking, and continued that until it became this very firm felted ball. It takes a lot of time and effort, but it's worth it if you really want a nice sturdy piece. Really, the only difference here is preference and the amount of material that you have. If you want your piece to be more firm, you will need to use more roving. You can also make flat felt with your roving, especially if you need it to match whatever it is that you're making. Here I'm folding and guiding the roving into the shape that I need, and you need to make sure that you pick it up and readjust it every once in a while so that way it doesn't get stuck to your felting surface. I wanted to have really pointy cat ears for my piece, so you also can of course use scissors to cut that down and give yourself an exact shape. Before I attach anything, I'm making the second ear so that way I can make sure that they're the same size and shape. I am going to show you two different methods of attaching pieces though. The first technique uses unfelted wool, kind of like glue. You want to figure out the placement and angle of your piece, and then you're going to use a little bit of unfelted wool between the main piece and your added part. You're going to be felting that in, and the needle will push the felt from that added part and the new roving into the main piece for strong attachment. This works really well with matching colors because that extra roving is going to blend into the main piece. For the second method, you need to be very sure of the angle and placement of the piece because you're going to take some very sharp scissors and cut where you want it to go. So that way your added piece can slide down into that cut. I made two cuts in the shape of a V for this add-on because I wanted the ear to be a little bit folded instead of sticking up flat. Then use a single felting needle to push the piece into that cut. Once it's in place, you should felt through the whole piece perpendicular to the add-on for extra strong attachment. Once the shaping is done, you can add extra surface detail with just small bits of roving. Here I'm adding a calico spot, and then I use very, very small amounts of roving to add the eyes, nose, and mouth. You want to be really careful not to have too much roving whenever you're doing small details like this, and to be very purposeful of where your needle is poking, particularly here with the mouth. It's also good to remember that the more you poke in one area, the more the fibers will be compressed and it will affect your shape.